Okay, so now we've got total communication. Now, what does total communication mean? It means that you're using your verbal stimulus plus a visual stimulus plus a tactile or kinesthetic experience. And what does that give your child? It gives them a better understanding, it gives better attention to vocabulary, and more generalization. So if you want more comprehension and generalization, try to incorporate a total communication method in your teaching strategies at home. So this means that when you are communicating with your child or introducing a new object, make sure that you are using your verbal stimulus plus a visual, okay? A visual could mean a picture or a sign or both. And you're also getting your child to maybe touch the object. So if you're teaching, for example, the concept of hot and cold, you could have objects that are slightly little hot or objects that are cold, like ice cream and ice, and you can get them to touch it, have a visual of cold, and then you're using your word, it's cold. So you're pointing to the visual, you're getting them to touch it, and you're using the verbal stimulus. Okay, now we're going to go on to the importance of visuals. So there are two main aspects of why we use visuals in speech therapy. The first one is because visuals clarify the material that's being taught. So if the child does not understand our verbal stimulus, if we give them a visual stimulus at least, that allows them to better understand of what we're asking of them. So as adults in our day-to-day life, we learn 3% through taste, we learn 3% through smell, we learn 6% through touch, 13% through hearing, and we learn 75% through seeing. So as typically developing adults, we learn 75% through looking at something. Can you imagine a child who's got a language delay, a language difficulty? All the more, visuals are so crucial. The second point is that visuals make learning more permanent. So a lot of the times I hear parents saying, they did that yesterday and they wake up the next morning and they totally forget to do it the next day. They're not understanding that a child who has autism, also they usually have very poor memory for verbal stimuli, but they have very good memory for visual stimulus. Okay? So as, again, typically developing adults, we are able to retain information that's heard, 10% of the information that we hear. We're able to retain 35% of the information that we see. But if we combine looking and listening, we are able to retain 65%. So just remember that when you're trying to teach your child a concept, if you want them to retain information, if you want their memories to improve, remember the total communication cycle. Verbal stimulus, tactile stimulus, and visual stimulus. Okay, so just a little bit on the research about visuals. Okay, so in 2000, there was a study done by Detmar et al., and they found that using visuals resulted in faster processing and following instructions. So they did it with two elementary school boys. That means the boys were about 6 years old. And they found that when, in the classroom setting, when the instructions were given in a visual format, the children were able to follow through the instruction much faster than if the teacher just gave the verbal instruction. So they were able to complete tasks much faster. Secondly, the verbal prompts of the teacher came down. So, constantly telling the child to listen or do this and having to come back and prompting them to write. When a visual stimulus was given to them, the verbal prompts of the teacher decreased dramatically. The second one was done in 2001, and it showed that in school, when an activity schedule was provided for an aggressive child, a child that had difficult behaviors because the school environment was so chaotic, it's noisy, the child just didn't understand what was going on. When they were provided with a schedule in school, so first we do math, next science, next social, next play, the child aggressive behaviors came down dramatically, and compliance also increased. So the child was able to sitting tolerance increased, they were able to follow instructions better. So really important in school as well to make sure that if you're using visuals at home, make sure the school is also using them. The last one is pictorial support in 3 nonverbal children, low functioning. It really helped in their independent self-care, so their self-management. So things like going to the toilet, bathing themselves, and I have seen that with children who come to me who are of a little older age. You know, when the parents have to go into the toilet with them and be with them through the whole process, it's degrading for them. It's, you know, they're older children at the moment. So when they were provided with visuals in the toilet itself, so step by step, you know, pull your pants down, sit on the toilet, flush the toilet, pull your pants up, wash hands, wipe hands, that really helped them in their independent self-care. So that's from my personal experience, and the studies have shown that as well. And the studies also showed that when the pictorial sequence was changed, so if they were given a sequence and they changed the sequence, the children were still able to follow. So it's also encouraging independence in your child, rather than you having to follow through with everything that everything they do in their day. So I'm just going to show you a visual schedule that I made for the children that come to me. It's just a template. A lot of the times, parents do have visual schedules, but what you do is you place it in the room, you show your child first thing in the morning, and then you don't use it thereafter. A visual schedule should be used continuously through the day, okay? So you're showing the child knows exactly what they've done and exactly what's coming next. So they're able to process and structure their day a little better. If you just show them the first thing in the morning, they're going to forget through the day. So you need to make sure that all your visuals are portable. So this is very portable. It's an A4 size. You've got Velcro on both sides, okay? This you can place in your handbags. So you've got, you know, brushing teeth, having a shower, putting your clothes on, eating breakfast, going to school. And what you will do is, so for example, you would take your child to the toilet. The moment they wake up, you'd say, okay, now we have to go brush teeth. Let's go to the toilet. So you take them to the toilet, you show them the visual, brushing teeth. When they finish, you say, well done, brushing, finished, and you take it off. And you keep it in a little Ziploc bag if you have, that you can then carry with you. And so this is all in the house. So if they're going to school, after they finish school, you say, okay, school, finish. You bring it to where you're picking them up from, or you keep it in their bag so the special educator or the teacher can show them, okay, now school has finished. Now where are we going? We're going home. Okay, and on the back, we've got speech therapy, OT. So have pictures, take real life pictures, print them, laminate them, and keep them in a portable visual timetable. This really, really does help your children in calming down their anxiety, letting them know what is expected of them, the behaviors that are expected of them, and basically letting them structure their days as well. And in time, you can take away the visual, or you can just leave the visual for them to remember. So you can leave it on their bedside table so they can be independent in their self-care. So first I have to brush my teeth. So you will see them independently going to the toilet, you know, having a bath. And you might need to have a little bit more detail in the bathroom itself. If they struggle with going to the toilet or washing their hands, you might have like a visual schedule in the toilet itself. So think of the areas that also that, you know, these visuals might apply. Having it taken off is very important because that's an action. The action will help them know that it's done and it's finished. And at the end, always have a blank one, have a blank laminate. So if anything is, you know, out of the ordinary in your schedule, you can just take a marker and write, we're going to the shop. So after speech therapy, we're not going home, we're going to the shop. Now this is a area where a lot of parents find, some may not have any issues at all, but some do. Like if after a certain activity, you have to do something else, but you haven't informed your child. Or if you only inform them verbally, they might have tantrums, they might show aggression. So showing them visually and explaining verbally is very important as well. So this is just an idea. At the end, you can come and have a look at it if you feel like. Okay, so what you see on the screen might look confusing, but this is basically called a communication board. And this is what I use communication boards in my sessions. They are topic based. So if you can see, this one is about the box. So the box that I just showed you, the attention bucket box, this board has all the vocabulary that surrounds that box. So we've got slinky, ball, foam, light. So you've got your nouns. But you've also got your verbs on the side. You've got blow, squeeze, stretch, spin. And on the end, you've got comments like, don't like, or it was fun, or keep your hands quiet. Now, the communication boards are used by the therapist as well. So in the sessions, I'm also using the boards to communicate with the child. So if I wanted to tell the child, do you want the foam? I would point. Do you want the ball or do you want the foam? So I'm using the same mode of communication that the child would be using with me. So I'm using this verbal and visual stimulus. And we tend to get stuck on our nouns a lot. I would also add in some verbs as well. So if the child is using ball, I would add, do you want to squeeze ball? So I'm adding one more word, one more key word, okay? If the child is saying squeeze ball, then I might say, you like to squeeze the ball, okay? And this board has enough vocabulary for the child to be able to express their needs in a functional and natural way of communication. Because communication should be as spontaneous and natural as possible. Don't try to teach your child too much, okay? So I'm going to show you how I use these boards. Okay, I'll just tell you actually, this is a software that I have. It's called Communication in Print. Now, it's an excellent software if you want to make visuals and if you want to make schedules or social stories for your child. It's expensive. It's about 20,000 rupees. But if you can join up as parents or purchase it somehow, it's a really good resource to have on hand. It's called Communication in Print, and you can go online and they'll ship it to India. One of the mums and a child that I see, and as you can, he's using the communication board on the floor, and he's got the mesh ball in his hand. And this was totally spontaneous. This is his 4th session with me, and he was a very hard to engage child. The mum didn't know how to play with him, and he had no spontaneous language whatsoever. So now you're going to see him starting to try to engage with his mum and communicate using the board. see him reaching out and pointing to the vocab of squeeze. So rather than, now we're moving on from the nouns, we're getting him to, understand what squeeze means. So that was really nice interaction between him and his mom, and he was waiting for her to squeeze, and she prompted him, but he pointed and he also said squeeze as he pointed. So okay, sorry, first one again. Okay, so that's at the one keyword level. The next video I'm going to show you is a child that's been coming to me for about a year, and he was non-verbal, and now I've moved him onto the two keyword level using visuals and communication boards, the OWL method. They first started with the attention bucket. So again, working at the roots and building up. Okay, so also can you see that there was, it was very clear as to what he wanted and my understanding. So by the visual, if I didn't have any visuals available, there would have been no communication at all, I guarantee that. So he was able to verbally say it. He was also able to point, which clarified understanding from my side. And that also builds up a lot of frustration when the child is trying to communicate with you and you're not able to understand them due to certain reasons. So he pointed and he got what he asked for.
What should we do with the top? That is. Stretch the top or spin the top? Can you show me? That spin. Spin that. Well done. Yeah. Ready? Spin.
Okay, so for the first time, I had to prompt him. I had to give him a choice, and then I had to take his hand and I prompt him. But if you notice the second time, he was on his own spontaneously and quite comfortably putting the two words together. So more top, he said. Then when I pointed, he said spin tops. So can you see the retention? He remembered the word and he remembered the verb. Okay, then he was able to tell me, quite frankly, that he wants to finish the top. So he used that board. So the board enabled him to freely communicate with me, whether he wanted more, whether he had fun, whether he liked it, whether he just wanted to finish it. So that was natural communication. He was enjoying the item. It was tactile, it was visual, and it was verbal as well. Okay, now, so I moved from one keyword level to two keywords in a sentence, and now we're going on to three keyword sentence level. So again, everything is visual, and if you notice, everything is functional. The mum is sitting right here actually, Sai's mum. So this is Sai's pictures, functional to him, relevant to him. It's of his parents, it's of his grandma and grandfather doing certain actions. So on this side, you can see, I'll just, can everybody see that visual? So on this little box over here, that's where the who part will come in. So the person will be placed over there, and all the way down there, we have the choice of actions. Okay, so we've got drinking, sleeping, eating, playing, and cooking. So I'm just going to show you how Sai, Sai is non-verbal, but he's emerging with some spoken language at the moment. His language is quite, his voice is quite soft, so he mumbles slightly, but he's attempting to communicate. He's attempting spoken language at this point.
Sai? Who is this? Is this Amma? Or is this Sai? Who is this? Who is it? Amma or Sai? Yes, correct. Take Amma.
Okay, so giving him a choice, giving him the visuals. Now, we would assume that he wouldn't know that if we didn't have the visuals. He wouldn't be able to answer that question. But by giving him the choice between the two, making it relevant to him, he was able to detect. Okay?
Good job. Okay, Sai. Nice look. What is Amma doing? Amma cooking or playing?
Okay, I made a mistake. It was Amma, not Amama, because that's his mum. So Telugu is not my first language.
What doing? Amma is cooking or Amma is playing? Which one? Playing. Good job.
Okay, so now he was able to detect the verb through the visual. So he was able to look at the picture of what his mama was doing, and then tell me that Amma is playing. Okay, so now he's going to make the sentence. He doesn't verbally say the sentence, but I've just started him on the sentence level, so he's got little prompting from me.
Okay, let's make the sentence in your mind. Okay. Look.
Also, going through the sentence first in their mind helps them focus and structure the sentence without you having to say it. Because when there's verbal stimulus and you're prompting him to do an action at the same time, sometimes there might be a delay. So getting the child to just go through the sentence point in his mind without any language from either of you first, it helps them focus much better.
Now let's say it together. Amma is playing. Again. Right? Make the sentence. Amma. You say Amma. Amma is playing. Good job. Amma is playing.
So at this point, I was quite happy with him just pointing, because that means his understanding is developing. So I know that if his understanding is developing, what's the next step that's going to develop? His verbal expression. So I was quite happy with, at this stage, just pointing, just to test his understanding. We're going to have a short 10-minute break, because it's quite a long presentation. So please have some tea or coffee or a snack. And we'll come back in 10 minutes. So around 11:50. So we moved on from 1 keyword level, 2 keyword, sentence level, 3 word sentence level. Now we're moving on to conversation. So a lot of the time we struggle with a child. They may reply to your question with a one word. Okay, so they might reply with a one word, or nothing is spontaneous. You're really struggling to get conversation out of them. They come back from school, they're not able to talk about the past, they're not able to tell you what they've done. So this is where you can start. Again, the main point I want you to get from this presentation is how can you use visuals to support your child's language development. So, for example, to enable the conversation level, to start that, we could use the child's daily routine. For example, I'm guessing most of your children would probably go to school. So you could use a school board. So the topic would be a school board. I'll just show you. About all the vocabulary that they would experience in school. So you've got teacher, they have snack, class, play. So what you would do with them is, after they come back from school, obviously give them a little break and let them have some fun. Then you can take this school board out, and while you're asking them the questions, or you're trying to elicit something about their school, you talk about it. So initially you might use the board to simply talk to your child. You're not asking them any questions. So you might say, so today you wore your uniform, then we went to school in the bus, and what did you do first? You did exercise, then you had your snack, then you did your playtime. That was lots of fun. So you're using the board to talk about the experience with your child. At this stage, you're not trying to elicit any conversation from them. By this, you're talking about a past event, you're using your visuals, and you're prompting your child's memory for something that they've done. And if it's highly motivating for them, if something that they enjoyed, they're definitely going to be engaged in what you're talking about. So you're not going to have to struggle to get conversation out of them at a later stage. So at a later stage, and this has helped quite a few of the children on my caseload, they now don't really need the board, or if the parents just put it in front of them, and the mom says, how was school, or what did you do in school? And the child on their own, they start pointing. I did puzzles, then I had snack, and then I went home. Even a little bit of conversation, even to that extent, is progress for the parents. Okay, the next thing is working on their sequencing skills. So again, using your everyday scenarios, your everyday situations to work on sequencing, or you could get a motivating activity, something that really they enjoy doing, something that's very motivating for them. For example, if your child is highly motivated with food, you could use that as a sequencing activity. So sequencing how to make something. So for example, making a sandwich. So we got the plate. What do we do? What do we get next? We get the bread. And what should we get last? We get the butter. And you do the activity as you're talking through the sequence with them. So you have the items in front of you. You have the plate, you have the bread, and you have the butter. And so again, that's your tactile experience. They're getting the motion, the action, okay? Sequencing is really good for being able to tell a story. When you're narrating a story, you need to go through sequence in your mind. So working on motivating activities, working on general life activities, and sequencing them helps your child structure their narration. The next one is discussing past events using visuals. Example. So the first one was something which is within their routine. This one is maybe talking about a motivating activity that you may take them on the weekend, or something that they enjoy. So for example, going to the mall. So I've made boards like water play, going to the mall, grocery shopping. These are activities that some children really enjoy. So all the boards are topic based. So they're all the vocabulary surrounding that particular topic. So for example, this would be going to the mall. One of the children, this was a specific board for one of the children, and he loved to eat momos when he used to go to Fun City. So what the mom would do is she would take him to the mall, have fun, observe what he was doing, and then when they came back home, she would then talk about what they did at the mall using the board. Okay, so first she used the board to talk through it, and then later on, he was independently telling her, talking about past events, talking about what. So when she asked him, "What did you do in the mall today?" he was able to independently tell her. It may be in one-word sentence, maybe in two-word sentences, but at least the child was starting to go back into their past and get some vocabulary from there. And the last thing is, it's quite nice, and a nice activity for you to do is to do an All About Me book. So this will really help in their social communication skills as well. So getting a child to understand what they look like, who lives in their house, where they go to school, where do they live, what things that they like and they don't like. All of these can be put in an All About Me book. And you can make it fun. You can get like a big scrapbook. You can have cut out pictures of different family members, or cut out the pictures of the places that you go to, and get them to stick it on and talk about the pictures as you're going through them. So you have long hair, you have black hair, you have brown eyes. Okay, who lives in your house? Mama, Papa, Nana, okay? And talk about the frequent places that they go to. And another thing is their likes and dislikes, which is quite crucial because a child should be able to know the things that they like and the things that they don't like. So instead of them throwing things across the room or running away, they should be able to say, I don't like, or at least sign, don't like. So a lot of the times they actually don't understand that vocabulary, what is like and what is don't like. So you can have pictures of things that so get a list of items that they like and a list of items they don't like, get the pictures for them, and start sorting them. And you can have the real, so for example, if it's food is the main one that you can start with. You can have pictures of food items that they like. So you can have chocolate or crisps if they're not on any specific diet. And you can say, okay, you like to eat chips. So you sort it in the like category, and then you give them a chip. Did you like that? That was nice to eat. You like it. Then you can have the don't like. So you don't like, and you make the facial expression. Okay, you don't like it. You don't like to eat apple, and then you sort the apple picture in the don't like category. So sorting is a good way for them to learn a concept as well. Okay, now we go on to how to structure a social story. So if your child has some behaviors that they're very anxious about certain situations, or you know that they really struggle in certain situations, a social story really might help them to calm down. And I just had a mom, she went to the passport visa office last week, and she took her child, and we've been working on these visuals, the social stories. And she was like, those visuals really, really helped because he didn't run, he didn't shout. There was a list of things that he to do and things that he shouldn't do in the passport office. And just explaining it, not just verbally, explaining it with the pictures really helped the child to comply and brought the aggressive behaviors down within that situation. So this is how you structure your social story. You have to get to what is the purpose. So what is the social story about? Gather the information. So observe your child. What are the behaviors that your child displays in this situation? What's happening in the environment? Is it noisy, or is there a lot of stuff around? Are there lots of people around? Is it crowded? Get your visuals. Identify the behaviors. What does your child display in the situation? And what behaviors you would like to see? And providing solutions. So instead of saying, don't do this, if the child is fidgety or grabbing, a solution would be to carry maybe a sensory toy or to carry something in your bag that the child can fidget in that situation. So the point of a social story, because it's used in scenarios where the child might be anxious, we try to avoid using any negative language. So our language must be as positive as possible and just and very simple. So instead of saying don't do this or that was bad behavior, we try to use language like I will try to or I will try not to. Okay, so it's not too harsh for them. So I'm just giving you an example. This is when this is a child going to the doctor's office. So this is the purpose. You've got the purpose up there. When I am waiting at the doctor's, and you've got your visual. So why are you going to the doctor? What is the purpose? You tell the child. You must inform your child. They are also individuals in their own right, and they must be informed of what's going on. So you can tell them, so today at the doctor's, we're going to get weighed, so you can put a tick or a smiley face next to it. You can tell them, the doctor's going to look in your mouth. I want you to take a deep breath, and when it's all done, you did a great job, okay? You can use this visual to structure that for them, so they know what to expect in that situation. Now these are your behaviors that you see. So the behaviors that you see are him running, biting, or shouting. And these are the behaviors that you would like to see. You would like to see the child doing good sitting, asking for a toy, or hands to self. So a simple chart like this allows the child to immediately detect and know what is required of them. And you will discuss this social story with them the day before, the morning of the event, and just before the event. So you keep going through it as much as possible. So you have repeated and you've reinforced to your child what might happen and what the scenario is like. And then at the end, the child gets a reward, because this is usually a very anxious and difficult situation for the child. If you are able to, reward them and show them visually what the reward is, you usually see better, more compliant behaviors. So because I listened at the doctor's, Mama will give me an ice cream. So you're also specifying what the child did really well, because I listened. So they know that that is what is required of them. Most of the time we use very generic language like well done or great job. When you're praising your child, make sure that you're also praising them specifically, like you did very good sitting. You did very good listening. So the child fully understands what they've done well, not just well done. Well done is extremely general. They don't know what that is. Because when you praise the behavior specifically, they know that, okay, that's what I need to do next time.